Hey, Soul Surfers, welcome back to Waves of Consciousness with My Spiritual Ocean. My name is Alicia, and today we are writing the Law of Assumption wave, and we are talking about everyone's least favorite topic, third parties. So let's go ahead and dive on in. As the former queen of third parties, I actually love talking about this topic because I wish I had known about it earlier in life. It really would have saved me a lot of time. So that's why I'm making this video, to hopefully help any of you who are experiencing third parties in whatever format it may be. I'm here to help you get through this and get rid of them for good. So here are 5 things you need to know about third parties and how to get rid of them for good. So let's start off with the first thing you need to know about third parties, and that is third parties are not just people. A lot of time in the manifesting community, or when you hear people talk about third parties in general, they're typically referring to another person. But third parties can be anything from work to addiction, substances, really anything that makes you feel unimportant or second best. So just because there's not another person in the picture interfering with you and your manifestation or whatever is rightfully already yours, doesn't mean that you don't have a third party issue. But that's okay. No matter what way this third party shows up, you can get rid of it. Number 2, third parties have nothing to do with the third party. They have nothing to do with the object of your desire. They have everything to do with you. They are your creation, or the unconscious unfolding of a belief that you hold about yourself. So once you face that belief and transform it, the third party is going to disappear because everything is reflecting you. If you're not familiar with the concept of everyone as you pushed out, the last episode of Waves of Consciousness, I talk about this concept and what it means, so you can go listen to that episode. But essentially, in a nutshell, everyone as you pushed out is everyone is reflecting your beliefs and assumptions about yourself and the world. Third parties are no exception. So whether it is another person or a substance or work or whatever it is that makes you feel unimportant, second best, not prioritized, like there's competition, like it's an obstacle, it's reflecting you. It's reflecting those assumptions that you hold about yourself. So if you're experiencing third parties, ask yourself, what is it that this is showing me? Which belief is this highlighting for me? And it can be different based on the third party, or it can reflect a different belief based on the scenario that you're in at the current time. And if you really get down to it, third parties really reflect kind of the belief of scarcity of love, probably from childhood. So if you grew up in a household where love was scarce, love was not abundant, it was only shown in certain times, because something else or another person was getting that love that you wanted for yourself, that can create these third party belief systems. But ultimately, kind of the deepest core belief that people hold when there are third parties involved is that they're not good enough. Number 3, third parties are only a threat, an enemy, or an obstacle if you make them out to be. And that assumption in itself is telling you a lot about your self-concept. You can make anything and anyone in your experience work in your favor if you assume it to be that way. And this is kind of an extension of they are you pushed out, because they're reflecting something back to you. The way that you view them is what the story is that you're telling of yourself, essentially. Number 4, this one's really big because I see this a lot. Affirming a third party away without working on your self-concept will not resolve the issue. Okay, so temporarily that specific third party may be removed from the scenario or situation, but if you have not resolved the core belief that's underlying it, another third party will show up. And it can show up in the same form, or it can show up in a different form as well. As the wise Neville Goddard said, accept it so you can change it. So if there's a third party in your experience, accept that there's a belief within you that created this or is causing you to experience this. I'll say that instead of creating this, causing this experience. And now, if you take the time to identify what that is, you can transform it so you can remove the third party from your experience. Bring awareness to that belief so you can change it. Bring awareness to what the third party is reflecting back so you can change that circumstance. Number 5, third parties are a circumstance, and circumstances don't matter. It does not matter if a third party exists in your reality now, they do not have to exist forever. And in fact, once you get the message that they're sending you and change that core belief, they have no choice but to exit your experience. So, just like everything else in your reality, it is changeable, it is mutable, everything's responding to you. Third parties, no exception. They only stay alive and active in your 3D if you bring awareness to them and keep the awareness on them. I feel like that part went kind of fast, like what you need to know about them, but I feel like there's a reason for that because you want to give them as little attention as possible. So, we just kind of breeze through those things. So, let's now talk about how to get rid of third parties for good. Number 1, focus on yourself. Take all the attention and energy that you're pouring onto this third party's existence and pour it into yourself. Third parties are showing you that you don't feel important, you don't feel chosen, you don't feel good enough, you don't feel like a priority. So the way to combat that, I don't like to say combat because that sounds challenging. The way to rectify that is to make yourself the priority. Allow yourself to feel good enough. Allow yourself to choose yourself. Allow yourself to matter and be the most important thing in your life. Pay attention to yourself. When you pay attention to yourself, everything else will pay attention to you as well. Again, the more attention you give to the third party and view them as an obstacle or a challenge or a threat, the more you're going to create that in your experience. So put the focus on yourself, not on them or the circumstance or whatever else it is that you're trying to manifest. Third parties, a lot of times, are talked about in the context of when people are manifesting a specific person, but they also exist in terms of like work and finance and careers and things like that. So third parties can span anywhere across categories of life. And this kind of trails into number 2, which is to work on your self-concept because, again, they're reflecting you. So when you take the time to ask yourself, how does this third party make me feel? What do I believe to be true about myself based on this third party? Or if you start to observe the story you tell yourself when you think about a third party, that's going to give you a lot of intel about what your core self-concept beliefs are that you can work on. And when you shift your core self-concept, I mean, you're unstoppable. You really, really are. Remember, everything in your experience is reflecting you. So it is all changeable. It's all mutable. It's all able to transform just by transforming your beliefs about yourself and about life and about the object of your desire. Number 3, change the way you view them. So again, if you're viewing them as an obstacle or a threat or the enemy, they're going to show up that way in your experience. So again, I don't recommend putting a lot of focus on them, but if the third party crosses your mind, then you can change the story about them and you can say, well, they're working in my favor. They are the reason that I'm getting my manifestation. They are just aiding the inevitable unfolding of what I want ultimately to experience. But again, you don't want to stay in that space. Just switch that story when you can and give them a new role instead of the enemy or the villain or whatever it is. Make them work in your favor because you are the power that's operating everything around you. Number 4, stop comparing yourself to them. I see this most often with when the third party is another person, but it could really be for any third party. But stop comparing yourself to them. Just stop it. Comparison is the thief of joy. If you are comparing yourself to them, that's telling you about your self-concept. So if you are comparing yourself to them, use it to your advantage, but really try to stop that habit of comparing yourself. And a helpful tip I have for this is if you do find yourself comparing yourself to the third party, you can reframe in this way. So if you notice yourself saying, like, they're so beautiful, you can also say, but so am I. And you can even say, I'm more beautiful or I'm just as beautiful. But even that statement in they're so beautiful, there's an underlying self-concept tone of I'm not beautiful there. So explore that and then shift it. Number 5, this is going to be a total game changer for you. This is process your triggers. So if you find the third party is triggering you, ask yourself what core belief is being activated. Be with your trigger allow it. Tell yourself that it's okay that you feel the way that you feel and you can release that trigger. And then when you do that and restabilize yourself, then you can start shifting the story and affirming your new story or your new self concept. The reason that processing triggers is so powerful is because it's just energy that needs to get out of your body. It's connected to that old story of yourself. So when that trigger is activated, it activates that energy. And if you hold on to that energy, you're just keeping that emotional connection or emotional tie to the belief system that you're holding. So process it, allow it, release it. The more you face your triggers and see what it is about the third party that's triggering you and release it, the easier it will be to change things. So face your triggers, because I will tell you something. If you do not face your triggers as they come up, they will find you again to be processed. They're going to get processed. So my motto and philosophy is better to just confront them and allow them and process them now so you don't have to do it later. And also, again, once you process them, it's easier to change the story of yourself and have it stick. And finally, number 6, focus on what you want, not what you don't want. So this is like kind of living in the end or going to the end scene. So whatever it is that you want that you feel this third party's interfering with, assume you already have it. Assume it's yours. Assume the person is yours. Assume the job is yours. Assume, try and think of whatever else it would be. The money is yours. Just assume it's yours. I mean, there could be a third party involved in buying a house, right? If you view somebody as competition, that they're going to put in a better offer or something of that nature. Just focus on you having what it is that you want, because by the very nature of that, they can't exist if you're in that experience. You can't experience a third party if there is no third party. So focus on what it is that you want. Don't focus on the third party being there and whatever story you're holding of them. Focus on ultimately what it is that you want. And again, they will see themselves out. If you are looking for tools and techniques to help you remove the third party, I have a YouTube channel you can check out there. I have subliminal affirmations. I have a playlist for removing the third party. I also have a self-concept playlist that will be beneficial as well. There's EFT tapping videos, guided meditations. All of these things can help you in transforming your concept of yourself and thereby removing the third party. So there you have it. There are the 5 things you need to know about the third party and how to get rid of them for good. Please remember, persistence is key. Changing the story of you can take time. So the more you persist in the new assumptions of yourself and the experience that you want to have, it has no choice but to unfold. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you all on the next wave.